Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Shrew, can you lead us in the land acknowledgement?
We pay respect to the Algonquin people who are the traditional guardians of this land. We acknowledge their long-standing relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. We pay respect to all Indigenous people in this region from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. We acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers, both young and old, and we honor their courageous leaders, past, present, and future.
Father, can you lead us in prayer?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We celebrate you, risen Christ. We join every creature in proclaiming that you are worthy to receive glory and honor and power forever and ever. We celebrate you, risen Christ, for children who worship you through their wonder in your world's sights and sounds and movements. We celebrate you, risen Christ, for youth who seek your presence in the beauty of creation and your compassion in the voices of others. We celebrate you, risen Christ, for women and men whose lives are psalms of praise, turn to glorify your name through their words and work. We ask you this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And we recommend the following persons who have passed away to your prayers. Bridget Joy Mullen, mother of Chair Mark Mullen and wife of former trustee Patrick Mullen. Jerry Michael Gerard O'Connell, father of Carolyn Roberts, development specialist at St. Paul High School, grandfather of Victoria Roberts, social worker, special education and student services department, and father-in-law of Lisa O'Connell, educational assistant at Holy Trinity High School. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please stand for O Canada. Father Saunders is going to highlight the life of St. Anthony tonight.
Yes, tonight we are featuring St. Anthony of Padua, celebrated on June 13th, and St. Anthony Catholic Elementary School, located in the heart of Ottawa, Little Italy. Located next door to St. Anthony's Parish, students and their families enjoy a tangible link between home, school, and parish. Families, parishes, and schools are connected through their love and support of the child. The feast day of St. Anthony is a wonderful opportunity for everyone to celebrate the threefold partnership that is Catholic education. On the 800th year anniversary of the Franciscan Order, Pope Francis pointed to St. Anthony of Padua as an example for a younger generation of Catholics to live the gospel courageously. Following in the footsteps of St. Francis, St. Anthony went out to meet others in order to share the joy that is for all peoples. His example of sharing with the difficulties of families, the poor and disadvantaged, as well as his passion for truth and justice, can still awaken a generous desire to give oneself today in service of others. In this spirit of encounter, St. Anthony's School is a meeting place where a meaningful relationship between the parish, home, and school can grow. Whether it is a regular visit to the parish for a tour of the church, school liturgies, or times of personal prayer, the Knights of Columbus free throw competition, preparing First Communion, or attending Sunday worship, the possibility to extend this mutual encounter continues to grow. St. Anthony's teaching continues to shape our understanding of the great dignity and worth of each human being. On his feast day, students sit at the feet of this great spiritual teacher once again. And last year, the whole school participated in group activities led by grade 12 students from St. Mark's High School. They retold the story of St. Anthony and dramatized his teaching in skits that were the highlight of the day. And as partners in Catholic education, inspired by the ways of the saints, we hope to offer a joy-filled education rooted in a rich encounter. Working together as families, parishes, and schools, we hope to hand on a way of life that will help all our students navigate the realities we are living in a way that honors the tremendous worth of our humanity and the dignity of our children. Through the intercession of St. Anthony, may we never lose sight of all that is precious in the children, the families, and communities we accompany. Connected by the love of the child, may we find one another and lift one another up through the partnership of Catholic education. St. Anthony, pray for us.
Thank you, Father. I'd like to recognize Trustee Joanne McEwen and Trustee Spencer Warren that are participating online. I would also like to introduce and welcome Mary Catherine Hogan, who is the President-elect of OACTA. Welcome and congratulations. And I'd like to thank Michelle Pierce for work that she's done with the board. We have no delegations. We have no public session. Can I get a mover for the public, for the agenda, please? Adding item J, trustee motions. Trustee Moore, seconded by Trustee Phelan. That the regular agenda, that the agenda for the regular meeting of the board, May 23rd, 2023, be approved as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. School department profile, there's none. Declarations of conflict of interest, there's none. Confirmation of the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 9th. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Coburn and Trustee Melito. That the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 9th, 2023 be adopted as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unfinished minutes, business from previous meetings. There's none. Item J, trustee motions. There's a motion to excuse Trustee Shelley Lawrence. I will read the motion. that the Board of Trustees authorize this resolution and their approval of absence due to medical reasons for trustee Shelley Lawrence, should she miss 3 or more consecutive regular board meetings effective May 23rd, 2023 until June 30th, 2023, or until her return. I am moving that motion. Can I have a seconder, please? Trustee Phelan. Discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Presentation and consideration of committee reports. Committee of the Whole Board, May 23rd, 2023. Trustee Coburn?
Yes, one item to report upon, a tentative agreement with OPSU Local 423. It was moved by Trustee Warren and seconded by Trustee Moore that the memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs and the Superintendent of Human Resources dated May 17th, 2023, entitled Tentative Agreement OPSU Local 423 be received, and that the tentative agreement with OPSU Local 423 be ratified, and it was carried.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 2, memo from the Director of Education, read Parent Involvement Committee minutes of February 14, 2023. Mr. Director.
For receipt, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Phelan. Who's Trustee Warren? Seconding. That the memorandum from the Director of Education dated May 18, 2023, and the report entitled Parent Involvement Committee minutes of February 14, 2023 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item L, presentation and consideration of staff or trustee reports. Item L1, memo to the Superintendent of Student Success Elementary, read the culture of play. Welcome, Superintendent Montgomery. Welcome, ladies.
Good evening, everyone. At Elementary Student Success, we continue to find creative ways to not only support academic achievement, but also to support mental health strategies for our students. The culture of play is a way we leverage learning to improve student engagement, well-being, and academic success. This has gained momentum within our elementary school communities within the Ottawa Catholic School Board. I am pleased to be joined by Kim LaSalle, Coordinator of Elementary Student Success, and Yolanta Kraviaki, K-6 Science and Technology Consultant, who will both share the details of this approach to teaching and learning.
We know from research and experience that opportunities for playful learning improves the cognitive, social, and emotional well-being of children. Through play, children learn about the world around them, and they learn skills they need for study, work, and relationships. Yolanta and I are fortunate to also work closely with Dr. Richard Balduc. This focus on the importance of play is supported by Dr. Balduc and the mental health and well-being team in our Student Services Special Education Department. The benefits of play can be found through the work of the Neufeld Institute and Hannah Beach's Reclaiming Our Students. Next slide, please.
Actually, one more, sorry. During the spring of 2021, Kim and I met with Jess Amato, the founder of Platform to Play, who inspired us to use play as a vehicle for forward movement thinking. We started with a small group of 8 to 10 interested educators, and the results spoke for themselves. As a recreational therapist and community developer, Jess's expertise in recreation and play guided educators and school communities in reaching their highest potential. The culture grew from there. Next slide, please. The kindergarten program is a model of how important learning through play is in the lives and development of children. While the way it looks in grades 1 to 12 will vary, there is still such a need to teach the curriculum through play within our indoor and outdoor classrooms. Play brings the curriculum to life for our students. As you can see from the visual, when educators find creative ways to engage students in playful opportunities, they are engaging them in deep learning. Play directly supports the development of the global competencies. Some of the benefits and connections to the competencies include stimulating creativity and critical thinking through playful activities that fosters teamwork, cooperation, and effective communication while listening to the variety of perspectives. Students can learn about rights and responsibilities, justice, and community engagement. It builds empathy and provides opportunities for students to develop resilience and perseverance. Next slide, please.
While other elements are at focus, the learning environment is at the forefront. This slide is taken from Dr. Richard Bolduc's work on supporting play through the learning environments. How do we foster a playful learning environment? We can encourage staff and students to play. We create time and space for play. We support play in the classroom. We learn together through play. We create those learning opportunities that embed play, and we play alongside each other. Some of Jess and Mattow's recent work has been supporting some of our school teams with the tools necessary to create an inclusive and positive recess experience for students. This has also branched out to be part of the Outdoor Learning Spaces project. OCSB educators are embracing flexibility, experimentation, and a spirit of continuous improvement to ensure a joyful and effective learning experience. Next slide, please.
Here's an overview of how the Culture of Play Network rolled out over the past 2.5 years. We built capacity beginning with 29 educators by supporting them through professional learning development, always making learning sessions interactive and engaging, giving educators time to play, receiving input from educators, and prioritizing time for them to share their learning journeys. This small group continues to network and collaborate. After year 1, educators in the network were very passionate and wanted to spread the focus. Many of them took on the role of play ambassadors, which involves sharing resources, capturing learning, and encouraging colleagues. Jess Amato continues to support by sharing resources and offering individualized coaching. Jess and her availability has been immense. She listens and receives feedback from educators and uses that data to move forward. Next slide, please.
Our partnership with Platform to Play will continue to build next year with additional play ambassadors, an elementary student success subcommittee on play, a partnership with OCSB's newly Outdoor Learning Spaces project, and additional professional learning for educational assistants. As you can see, this year alone, we had 23 principals engaged in professional learning, and 7 of those principals invited Jess Amato to facilitate professional learning at their school. Jess facilitated an introduction to culture of play session on the April PD Day for educational assistants, and they are currently meeting to plan for continued support and next steps. Our central learning partners and ECE lead have been supporting this work within their roles and their designated school communities, offering one-on-one support, sharing resources, and applying playful strategies across various curriculum areas. We wanted to highlight 2 stories that demonstrate the spread of the impact of this work. One of our play ambassadors at St. Thomas More built capacity within her school using a LIFT application through Leading and Learning to fund the PD and resources for her school. Another play ambassador, a resource teacher at St. Isidore, worked closely with Jess Amato to create a playful, safe space for any student. We also continue to use our hashtag to promote, share, and inspire our broader learning community, and that's hashtag OCSB Play. Next slide, please.
Here we have a variety of examples of how we support our educators to embed play. We are currently working on an OCSB Play website as a hub with resources for our educators. We have been providing a Forest and Nature Practitioners course through Child and Nature Alliance Canada. By the end of August, we will have over 50 OCSB educators who will have taken the course to become fully certified. The pedagogical training makes use of David Sobel's 7 design principles of play. David makes the case that meaningful connections with the natural world doesn't begin in the rainforest or Arctic, but in our own backyards and communities. Furthermore, OCSB Earth Month welcomed David Sobel to present about place-based learning, where educators were able to learn more about play in a place-based context. When engaged in place-based projects, students learn language arts, math, science, social studies, as well as essential problem-solving and social skills through involvement with nature and their communities. We also introduced Project Wet Canada, an organization that supports teachers with pedagogical practices where teachers learned how to facilitate water inquiry through play. Next slide, please.
In summarizing our learning partnerships, here are the networks, organizations, and departments that we will work with to continue to grow the culture of play. Our participation with the Canadian Playful Schools Network, which you have already recently heard about at a recent trustees meeting, has deepened our knowledge of pursuing play in grades 4 to 8. The network has given our members a chance to learn from global experts and from schools across Canada. Hannah Beach will continue to co-facilitate book studies within our board, and she will be facilitating a professional learning session for administrators and another one for central staff, and will be also facilitating a summer institute. Our math team has been supporting teachers with playful approaches through a collaborative math network for kindergarten to grade 2. With the Elementary Ministry Tutoring Initiative, board games were purchased for students to engage in mathematical thinking for all schools. With our Outdoor Learning Spaces project, we hope to partner with outdoor play experts that will consult OCSB with purposeful installations that will promote play within our schoolyards. Next slide, please.
Like any initiative, it is critical to hear from those directly involved. We conclude by sharing a few quotes from educators and students. On this slide, you will see 2 quotes from students that were shared with us. Words like energy, excited, and calm really stand out. To share another quote from Jody Ashton, Vice Principal of St. Catherine, "It's incredible to see the evolution of engagement and academic success of students when play is centered in the learning environment. It has to be intentional. Creativity leads and curiosity takes over when students are given the time and the tools to play with the curriculum. They don't have to be separate, and we see that blossom in the classrooms that are fostering the culture of play." Ultimately, providing opportunities for play aligns with our gospel values by promoting joy, love, and community. By incorporating purposeful play into our lives and communities, we can create environments, indoors and outdoors, that reflect our deep learning practices while focusing on the health, well-being, and academic success of our students. Kim and I are delighted to have this opportunity to share the exciting initiative. We would be pleased to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Questions or comments? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. I've seen the value of play and how it can do amazing things, especially in mathematics and numeracy. But my question here is where do you see a parent component? Because I still see a lot of those workbooks at Costco getting sold on letters and numbers, and that's the only way we learn, because learning is work. So how are you going to bring the parents into this culture so that they can really support the children?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in answer to Trustee Moore's question, I think you're right. There is work to be done there, but I think in our schools, we have really amazing partnerships with parents. So we do see parents coming in and being part of that learning. And I'm just going to, recently I was at a social entrepreneur celebration for students that were involved in creating their social enterprise. And I was in the lobby with, no kidding, 30 parents waiting for the presentation. And that's where it really hit me about how important it is for parent engagement, but how lucky we are on this board that we really bring parents in as partners.
Sabah, would you consider having anything to do with CSPA and creating some, maybe even an online presentation of one of the ones, the intro presentation for teachers that could just give parents a better idea of what you're thinking?
I think that's a great idea. We have done some parent presentations on play and the value of play and risky play, and more related to probably younger children. But I think that there would be a lot of value in doing something for K to 12. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Trustee Coburn?
Thank you for the presentation. When I see the word play, I think less of structure and rules and things like that, and more, I would say, things that happen kind of organically. So can you maybe help me understand how the children or the environment the children are put in and how they come up with the rules or the games that would be involved?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to answer Trustee Coburn's question. I think it does take a great deal of time for teachers to model and sort of gradually get our students understanding what play looks like, learning through play, just like rules and regulations. They take some time to implement, and same with play. So I think there's still room for both, especially there's still room for rules in play. But I think it's just making the students to understand the value of play and giving them the time and the opportunity to learn how to play appropriately, so that they can still continue to follow those rules and other regulations that we have that are in place for safety purposes.
Trustee Whitted?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just to pick up on Trustee Coburn's question. So is there elements baked into this play-based learning that sort of help students understand how to transition out of that so that they know, when there is structure, when they sort of graduate past play-based learning into more traditional learning, that they're prepared for that they see sort of elements as they're playing, they know kind of what's next in their development, and maybe kind of walk us through what that would look like.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to answer the question. I think we're trying as much as we can. The movement is to get away from traditional learning as much as possible, but I know that we are still a little bit light years away from that. But we are trying to bring in play as much as possible in our classrooms from K to 12. So we are in our infancy stages of bringing play into all the elementary grade levels, so from grades 1 to 6, and then hopefully make that movement more in grades 7 to 12. But at the same time, gradually releasing and having that balance between some aspects of traditional classrooms, because we know that those still exist. And it's all about explicitly teaching students that this is now time for play, this is now time for learning through play, while we still could have some aspects of traditional learning happen in the classrooms and outside in our outdoor classrooms. But at the same time, we just want to make sure we give all those opportunities throughout K to 12 so that those learning styles of our students, that they'll be able to still blossom and learn through that learning style and those tools that play gives all throughout K to 12. So it's just a matter of wrapping your heads around, well, what does play look like in our higher grades? And that can be through experimentation, through coding, through all the things that they're already doing that they just don't really realize that that's actually play. So when we give our students our time to explore, to work in gardens, to make mistakes, that's actually play.
Mental. So when you talk about this being in, part of a more senior level discussion, and we have presentations about experiential learning. So talk to me about the relationship between play and experiential learning. It sounds like there's a lot of similarities. The experiential learning presentations we've had have a lot more structure associated with them. There's sort of guidelines, there's community partnerships, there is, potentially curriculum milestones they have to achieve as part of it, could be even co-ops. Can you maybe talk to me a little bit about the relationship between those two?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to answer that question. I think there's a lot of similarities, and there's always room for those partnerships and for that continued, learning with our communities. I just think you know, how you define play just looks different, but it completely does fit the experiential model when it comes time to giving our students that freedom and that opportunity to learn and to experiment and to have that time to reflect. That's all play, and that can still fit in the same framework of experiential learning.
Any other questions? Trustee Phelan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe just a quick comment on sort of the future and growth. And when I see 2021, 2022, 29 educators in 20 schools, 2022, 23, 37 educators in 16 schools. Obviously, there's some growth there. Have you found your sweet spot in the number of schools that you're trying to focus this on, or you know, what's your expansion model looking like for the years ahead?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll answer the question. So I think in an ideal world, we would like to see every single school being engaged in this learning, because we know it's best for students. We also know it fits beautifully in our deep learning framework. It is deep learning when we allow children to play with ideas, and I think, like Yolanta was saying, play really has taken on a different definition, and I think that came out of the kindergarten program with play-based learning and that whole philosophy. And it's just not about just free play. There's a lot of different types of play, and I think, yeah, it would be great to see it in all of our schools.
And just to add to these excellent answers, I think, going back to Trustee Whittett's question and Trustee Phelan's comment, the idea for the teacher, we use the word intentional many times, so is that they name, for example, the 6 C's as they're watching them play. That hasn't necessarily always happened in the past. So if you're in grade 4 to 10, let's say, and they're working on experiential learning, and you ask them to focus on creativity or collaboration, and then you, as a teacher, you debrief after and you say, where do you feel you collaborated in that play or in that experiential learning? So it's being a little bit more intentional and naming the skills they're developing through play. So that's where the teacher's going to come in the structure, the before and after kind of piece. So I think it's very exciting, and it's amazing to hear the students' answers when they don't realize perhaps that they were engaged in one of those 6 C's.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Trustee McEwen, would you like to move the motion? Okay. Seconder, please. Trustee Woodard. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Student Success Elementary dated May 17, 2023, entitled Culture of Play be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, ladies. Item L2, memo from the Superintendent of Student Service, Student Success Elementary, read Deep Learning in Action, Blessed Carlo Virtual School. Back. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you again. So under the excellent leadership of Principal Michelle McGarry, the OCSB has been successful in creating a virtual school that not only prioritizes high academic standards, but also a strong sense of community within that learning environment. One of many strategies used to create these conditions was to use deep learning as a framework in conjunction with hearing the voices of staff, students, and parents to create an authentic learning experience for everyone involved. Fortunately, Principal McGarry collaborated closely with Learning Technologies, and we've been blessed to have Julian Dahar, consultant in Learning Technologies, journey with us as we continue to build this virtual school. So welcome, Mr. Dahar and Principal McGarry.
We would like to thank the Board of Trustees, Director of Education, Associate Directors of Education, Superintendents, and members of public for this opportunity to share deep learning in action in a virtual school environment. As Superintendent Montgomery stated, my name is Michelle McGarry, and I'm the principal of Blessed Carlo Virtual School. I'm presenting along with Julian Dahar, who is our school's learning technology consultant. He has been integral to our deep learning journey in a virtual environment.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Michelle, and good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to present to you the official virtual school conditions framework for deep learning that was collaboratively established at the onset of the 2022-2023 school year. This conceptual framework, drawing inspiration from Michael Fullan's renowned work, Dive into Deep Learning, Tools for Engagement, has laid the critical groundwork and foundation for Blessed Carlo's transformative deep learning journey. Allow me to begin by emphasizing the importance of setting a clear vision and goals. It is paramount that students articulate their aspirations and define what they aim to achieve during the course of an academic school year. Building upon this foundation, the framework encompasses 4 remaining pillars, as you can see on the visual: leadership, collaborative culture, the deepening of learning, and new measures and evaluation. These essential conditions have been meticulously mapped out through the active involvement of our dedicated staff, motivated students, and supportive community partners and stakeholders. The result is a robust and validated deep learning experience wherein our students truly become the architects of their own deep learning journey. Next slide, please.
Students are definitely at the center of all we do at Blessed Carlo, so it was natural that they were part of forming our vision and goals. In September, I had the pleasure of going into each classroom and kicking off our deep learning project with the following guiding question for students: how are we going to use our learning to make a difference? They had a lot of great ideas. The conversation also focused on building an understanding of each of the global competencies that they would develop as they worked to improve their community. Our guiding question was then highlighted during our September open house evening with families, so they would be aware of our focus and could have input. And because we are a virtual school, potentially each day families can see how each class is journeying through their learning. Building capacity as a staff is also integral to this process. In addition to staff meetings, we also have another monthly meeting during the day for differentiated learning opportunities for staff. Each are centered around deep learning. During this time, students and their families have an opportunity to enjoy a virtual theater performance, learn how to draw, or other examples, as educators collaborate and learn together. Monthly check-ins with administration also center around where the classes are in their deep learning journey, what is working, and what can be adjusted. Lastly, as part of our budgeting, staff can choose from a select list of professional books that are ordered for them in the spring, and they read them and shift their learning practice in the summer and into the following year. Thus, innovation is research-based, and early adopters share resources they have developed with the entire staff. Next slide, please.
So under Michelle's esteemed leadership, Blessed Carlo has embarked on an extraordinary journey into the realm of deep learning. At the beginning of the year, we actively sought the input of students, staff, and the community to shape our vision and our goals. Together, we determined the global competency that would guide our year-long deep learning endeavor that would contextualize and bolster curriculum engagement and student assessment and evaluation. This inclusive and collaborative approach really highlighted the importance of giving voice and agency to all stakeholders along the deep learning continuum. By empowering individuals and embracing diverse perspectives, Blessed Carlo has become a pioneering institution in the realm of deep learning, all in a virtual environment where the 4 walls of the classroom actually don't exist. Next slide, please. Based on a significant student vote, collaboration actually emerged as the chosen global competency for Blessed Carlo this year. By actively involving students in this decision-making process, we aim to foster their sense of ownership and engagement as the selected competency of collaboration really set the tone for the entire school year. We were thrilled to have embarked on a journey with our students, delving into the multifaceted deep learning dimensions of collaboration, which really sparked insightful dialogues, promoted critical thinking, and fostered an activated mindset in their schoolwork.
Next slide, please. So what did this specifically look like? To start, We asked our students to define collaboration by describing what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like to them. They recorded their explanations. This provided our educators with an understanding of what their students knew and where to take their learning next. This led to educators developing a self-assessment method that students used throughout the year in order to strengthen their ability to collaborate. As it is our year-long focus, it is also referenced by our educators in our learning skills evaluations on each of our report cards. Next slide, please. So Julian and I have walked you through the framework, but we wanted to leave you with the most important takeaway: student and parent voice with regards to deep learning in action. So we have this video to show you.
Hi, my name is Ethan, and I'm in grade 3 in Blessed Carlo. I am here to talk about what I think of the Social Entrepreneur Project. One of the ways we helped was to use something beautiful that helped the earth to help our veterans and help us remember. One of the things I like about the Social Entrepreneur Project is that it's real. Like with the Worm Project, I'm not just looking at them in a book. I need to care for living worms, and while I'm caring for them, I'm learning about them. We started Paw Power so that we can help wildlife, and we learned that helping the animals helps us too. Learning how to reach a goal with others has taught me how to create our own project and team. I really like making the world a better place, and I like to feel like I'm taking action. I like working as a team and interacting with others. Like when the teacher shares her understanding, and then we share ours to create a way that we can help. Alone, I have only my knowledge, but together we can share knowledge, and we are like a brick wall with many layers. We are stronger if we work together. Together we learned how to live with the land and help each other. Thank you, bye.
Hi, I'm Ethan's mom, and I'm just here for a moment to give our side, the parent side of this experience. A few months ago when he started and we found out worms were coming into the kitchen, we were a little nervous, but his curiosity and joy and excitement to work with others to actually make real change in the community was infectious. We were really excited to learn as well about things we thought we knew about, and seeing his happiness of having a voice in the world, in the community, and feel that sense of empowerment he had to have a role in making good changes was just a wonderful thing to see as a parent. And we are really grateful that he had this opportunity. I want to thank his educators. Bye.
We thank you for this opportunity to highlight our deep learning journey at Blessed Carlo, and we welcome your questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Questions or comments? Trustee Whittam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. A comment and a question. To start off, just let me say what a heck of a job you guys have done standing up a virtual school through a pandemic, out of nothing, and it's a provincial success story. So great work on that overall. And you know, it's pretty clear that virtual schools and virtual learning is working. We have an excellent byproduct of that. And Sharu across the table, who's at our secondary school and is doing a great job as well. I really like the presentation, how you laid out a roadmap, how you've consulted, how you've involved every layer of the school, from parents to students to teachers, and that you sort of went out in a democratic way and surveyed the students, and you sort of let them drive and run with the work. You talked a little bit about evaluation. So can you talk to me what that evaluation will look like, when that will be complete, and how it will drive sort of future deep learning projects and partnerships that you embark on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the comment. It has been a board-wide initiative for this virtual school. We've been very supported. To answer your question, there's two aspects to the evaluation. So for the students to evaluate themselves, we have a single point rubric where they can see what they're doing well in and where they want to go to next steps. So the teachers can gather this, and what they look along the year is to see if their collaboration has improved through using deep learning. And that is what they are sharing on these check-ins, to say, you know, the students have indicated they started here and now they're here, so that we see that it is working by, as what Superintendent Montgomery said, by naming what we're doing very intentionally and by bringing it up very often. To evaluate how deep learning has gone as a whole in Blessed Carlo, I have the pleasure of going back into the classroom and actually asking the students. So those visits are coming up, and I want to say, so you were given a question at the start of the year. How do you think it went? And we, as you can see, use videos often. So maybe in the classroom I get to hear a few voices. I can't stay all day, but we also get to ask them through video. And so we can ask the students, and we can also ask the parents in virtual how they think deep learning went and how their child's learning experience has been strengthened by this.
Trustee Fallon.
Through you, Mr. Chair, congratulations on putting together such an outstanding presentation. It's really, really great. And obviously, you both seem quite passionate about what you do. And if you believe, others will believe as well, right? So that definitely shines through tonight. Maybe just a quick question on slide 6 here. It says deepening learning. What does collaboration sound like? What were some of the answers you got back based on those 3 questions that you asked? Look, sound, and feel.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we had some very, very excited kids saying it sounded noisy. It sounded like talking over each other, but then reminding each other we needed to take turns. It sounded like disagreements, but disagreements can be good, and we have to focus on being nice. Those were some of the quotes that we remember.
Trustee Warren, can you hear us now? There seems to be a problem with the sound being transmitted. Trustee McEwen, can you hear us? We got 6, yeah. We still have quorum. As long as he's working on it. Sorry. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much. I just want to put mine through the spec ed lens. I have 4 kids with mild autism, learning disabilities, yada, lots of letters. So the collaboration and what they think it looks like and where they need to move academically might not jive. Their perceptions of it. So how does you work with differentiation to make sure that they do move?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think that's where it comes into some one-on-one conversations or small groups. So like we would do with anything academically, we've differentiated collaboration as well. So it's moved our discussion from what they're learning to how they're learning, which is so important. So yes, we had some students that wanted to adjust their single point rubric or their self-assessment so that they better understood it. And that's what we wanted. We wanted them to use their words to understand how they were assessing themselves. So because we started with one maybe class single point rubric, we did differentiate into others for those students, and we did welcome students to write their own. They started as pretty basic in the beginning, and we've seen the shift even in that. And we're looking forward to using that same assessment for next year's global competency. It might not be collaboration, we don't know where we're going, but that fact of assessing what you're doing, that's what these kids think is beyond something academics like math or reading skills, is really, really important to us.
We've got our sound fixed, so that's good. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your presentation. Can I get a mover, please? Trustee Melito and Trustee Phelan. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Student Success Elementary dated May 17, 2023, entitled Deep Learning in Action, Blessed Carlo Virtual School be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 3, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, report on the trustee budget input session from February 14, 2023. Welcome, Associate Director Shimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight, as part of our budget memo presentations, we have the report from the trustee budget input session that was held in February. And included in your memo, you will see a summary from the input that we received on that night and some follow-up responses. So the board budget development process, during that process, we seek priorities from trustees early on in the process. It was done on the 14th to align the staff proposed budget that will be presented later tonight. Trustee priorities were summarized and aligned to the board's strategic priorities and considered when considering the limited budget funds that we had available for this year. Feedback is detailed in that report. Additionally, we did receive some feedback from the Student Senate where they, with Associate Director Donahue, over there, Associate Director Donahue held a roundtable discussion, breakout sessions, where student trustees at that Student Senate meeting on April 26th did a brainstorming session, which included a list of items that included both budget and other operational items that were budget related. I can summarize some of those sessions, some of those inputs that came back from the Student Senate as one, continued upgrades to facilities. So it included suggestions to the addition of paper dispensers in addition to the hand dryers that are currently in there, as well as air conditioning in our portables. I think we've heard that before. Addition of recycle bins and more water bottle refill stations. So a number of those inputs obviously are capital items, and that would be brought forward as part of our capital budget, the details of which, that granular level of details would come forward in the fall. The student input also included the investment in extracurricular, so identified there was uniforms, sports, and field trips. And finally, investments in the overall curriculum and resources, for example, standing desks and whiteboards. So that feedback was shared with execs so that each individual superintendent could incorporate it as part of their budget submission or follow back through to be able to provide feedback to Associate Director Donahue, who does meet with the Student Senate on a regular basis. So I wasn't planning on walking through the lengthy input, but I would be happy to take questions and perhaps call on my superintendent colleagues if I'm not able to answer.
That sounds good. Questions or comments? Seeing none. Oh, Trustee Coburn.
It's not a question, it's a comment, but I was just saying this is very well summarized, so it's very detailed. So thanks for this. It's well summarized through the different groups that input on this. So well put together. The report is well put together. Thanks.
Can I have a mover for the motion, please? Trustee Coburn and Trustee Whitted. The memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated May 17, 2023, containing the report on trustee budget input session be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 4, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, re 2023-2024, preliminary budget information and proposal to balance. Superintendent, Associate Director Shimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Dolly.
Thank you. So tonight I'm pleased to be joined by our Manager of Finance, Shelley Donnelly, to present the preliminary budget schedules. Before she does so, I would like to highlight the overall budget numbers as outlined in the B1 preliminary budget summary, and later I will speak to the summary of proposal for meeting budget objectives. So at tonight's meeting, we will be presenting the preliminary staff recommended budget, plus a list of $1.388 million of proposed one-time additions being recommended to be added to the budget, which will be presented for final approval on June 13th. This is basically a status quo budget with the addition of teachers and ECEs to reflect class size requirements for additional students. With the exception of increased grants for salaries and the offsetting expenses, the list of additions to the baseline budget is not what we're used to seeing from prior years, given the loss of funding in the GSNs for 23-24. Of course, the exception to this is the staffing of 28 FTEs added through the PPF grants, which are our one-time grants, the new ones that were announced by the ministry this year that support staffing for math recovery, reading intervention, and as well transitions and de-streaming for grades 7 to 10. Schedule B1 reflects an overall revenue increase of $27.6 million, or 4.5%, while the overall expenses have increased $29.1 million, or 4.7%, thus creating a preliminary budget deficit, which reflects the need to draw down from reserves to balance the amount of $4.5 million. On top of that, with adding the $1.388 million of one-time additions to the budget that I will outline later as part of Appendix C, the overall drawdown from reserves to balance and have a compliant budget will be $5.893 million. The increase in overall revenues of 4.5% includes increased grants for enrollment, but is significantly related to the funding for salary increases, therefore a funding in and a funding out. At this time, I'll now hand it over to Ms. Donnelly to speak to the staffing and grant schedules.
Thank you. So I'll now review Section E, full-time equivalent staffing, which is the second link in your memo. This schedule represents only the permanent full-time equivalents, or FTE, staffing of the board, so it does exclude casual and term employees, including those funded through our one-time PPFs, such as the new grants for staffing in math, reading interventions, de-streaming, and transitions. The board's overall projected FTE for 2023-24 is 5,077.7 FTE, which represents an increase of 127 FTE over our original 22-23 approved budget, or 80 FTE from our revised budget. The majority of the increase, mainly due to increased projected enrollment, is seen under classroom instruction, which represents 81.3% of total staff. This increase includes 20.6 elementary teachers and 7 ECEs for class size requirements, 7.3 additional resource teachers, and 54 EAs that have been made permanent. Also noted is the addition of 2 more mental health workers to address system needs funded through the new GSN for Safe and Clean Schools supplement. There is a decrease of 16.6 secondary teachers to reflect the adjustments required due to reductions in GSN funding, such as the e-learning requirements for 30-to-1 class sizes and the removal of COVID-19 funding. What's not reflected here is the addition of temporary staffing, as mentioned earlier, from PPFs, which includes 22 teachers to support grades 7 to 12 with transition de-stream courses in high school, which, if factored in, would reflect an increase of FTE on the ground. Other increases under non-classroom staff include administration staff for 2 new elementary schools, 2 new central positions to support our school office administrators, 2 positions self-funded through a restructuring of our International Students Department in Continuing Education, which allowed for 1 admin support position to be made permanent and a new finance support position. I will now turn your attention to Section F, which is the 3rd link in your memo. This represents visual charts to highlight various components of our budget. Chart F1 shows expenditure categories within our operating budget, noting our largest expense is, of course, human capital or salaries and benefits. representing 81% of total expenditures. In Chart 2, it reflects salaries and benefits by envelope, showing that 82% of these costs are going directly to the classroom. And finally, Chart 3, which breaks down benefit costs that have increased by $3.4 million or 4.3% over prior year budget. Some of these increases include rate increases, salary cap increases, and overall increases based on enrollment. Next, I will review H1 GSN operating revenues, which is the last link under the first section of our memo. Overall, GSN revenues have increased by $13.8 million or 2.4% over the revised budget. The majority of the increase is attributable to both enrollment growth and salary increases, which are sprinkled throughout the various grants, most notably Pupil Foundation Grant. Associate Director Shimmons has reviewed several of these grant changes at the last board meeting on May 9th, including the loss of $6.5 million in COVID recovery funds and the loss of $4.5 million under the new Indigenous funding model, which has been offset by $1.5 million in one-time realignment funding. And while other grants such as Qualifications and Experience Grant and School Operation Grants do show a large increase, they are also offset by equal and often higher offsetting expenditures. I will now pass it back to Associate Director Shimmons to review our proposal to balance.
Thank you. So that covers the preliminary budget schedule. So at tonight's meeting, we're still presenting a preliminary budget schedule. And these proposed additions to the baseline budget are for trustees' feedback prior to staff taking them back and incorporating those proposed additions into the final schedules that will be presented to the board for approval at the June 14th meeting. So tonight is the opportunity for trustees to make comments so that we can incorporate them and they don't trigger an additional budget meeting till the end of June. I would refer you to Appendix C, which if you click into the cover memo that says proposal to meet budget objectives, and then scroll down, you will see the list of $1.388 million of the proposed one-time additions. For time constraints, I'll just highlight some of the items on that list, the first being tutoring. So following the end of ministry funding tutoring programs, we have added an additional $100,000 from the preliminary budget to continue to partner with community programs for tutoring programs. Also of note is the cybersecurity of $910,000, which will implement to protect and update our firewall. As everyone knows, there's an ever-increasing occurrence of cyber risk, so it's more important than ever to ensure that our firewall is up to date and ours is coming to the end of useful life. I would also highlight the assessment supports of $85,000 for outside help to complete assessments for students with speech and language challenges, so that will be provided in the schools. And finally, I would just highlight the early learning, additional resources and professional development for kindergarten. This is to supplement new schools as well as increased number of classrooms that will supply pedagogical resources. It will deliver strong workshops in building relationships with kinder education teams, and with the expectation of new curriculum coming with kindergarten, this will help us stay ahead with PD on that. I'd be happy to take any questions on any others on those lists, but before I do so, I would just highlight 3 items before closing. First of all, I'd like to highlight that we're pleased to be presenting a compliant budget with a planned use of reserves that's within the 1%, totaling $5.89 million or 1%. We're allowed to draw down up to 1% and still be compliant and not require minister approval. Secondly, I'd like to highlight that our reserve balances are a total of $33 million in reserves, with $19.2 million of this being uncommitted and sufficient to draw down, and still leave a provision that nicely aligns with the 1 to 2% advisable for prudent financial management. The board has sufficient reserves to fund this 1% drawdown, and as we heard from trustees, You wish for us to plan for an intentional and a planned drawdown in order to spend some of our reserves and add one-time resources for the benefit of the system. And lastly, I would just like to highlight the items that are included in that drawdown of a one-time nature. And they include, firstly, $400,000 for startup resources for our 4 new elementary schools that are coming in online in the next 2 years. Secondly, year 2 is $2.5 million for the multi-year commitment in outdoor learning spaces. Third item is 1.388 from the list that I just referenced, so it includes one-time funds for tutoring, cybersecurity, and additional assessment supports. And finally, the remaining balance is a continuation of casual and temporary EA support. With that, I would like to hand it over and be happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My question is about the, on Appendix C, in the cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity generally isn't just a one-time thing, as my phone keeps telling me, and as I have to keep refreshing it. So are we, this is just a one line that you've written out, but does that include having someone trained internally to do our cybersecurity? Does it include ongoing, or will there be more as other years go on? Sorry.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So that's a multi-question answer, but I'll try and just tell me if I'm missing something. So first of all, you make a very good point. This is the hardware for cybersecurity. So it's the hardware that's coming to the end of life. And as many are aware, and I think other trustees around this table would be able to add to, is that there's quite an incident in school boards of the cybersecurity risks. So this would provide the hardware update. We do have internally trained staff, but we also are moving many of our applications, and I think we're right at the end of it, to moving most of our applications into the cloud-based. You'll actually see the last one on the list is the finance program is going to be moved into the cloud-based. And when that happens, it does transfer some of our liability and some of our risks, because those firms are specialized and have that cyber support 24/7, so it actually helps us towards providing more security for our systems. I think I answered them all.
Except the ongoing costs. So will there be an ongoing cost to being in the cloud?
The ongoing cost to being in the cloud, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, the ongoing costs are incorporated into the budget. I think I mentioned at our last budget meeting the 5% increases that are built into the budget, partially for enrollment increases, but we're also receiving additional increases in our software and licensing fees in order to support that changeover into the cloud.
Trustee Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's just a comment. So first of all, thanks for balancing a budget in a difficult year. I know it hasn't been an easy exercise, so thank you for doing that. My comment actually relates to special education. And again, it's not a question, it's a comment, right? Consistently, we've seen that this has not been funded fully by the Ministry of Education in here, and we can see in this budget on Schedule F1 that the board is funding it to the tune of $25 million, right? So this continues to be something that we're proud to do, that we're going to do, but I know that in the past we've looked to either our provincial associations or other groups to lobby on our behalf with regards to that. So just a point of emphasis. And final comment is to my fellow trustee Moore, who audit committee, which I think meets next week, right, receives reports with regards to cybersecurity right now. So I think it's actually part of our work plan. So as well as this, I'm not sure that it's on the agenda, Lisa, for our next meeting, but we certainly have seen reports through our insurance provider, OCSB, with regards to that and what staff is doing to sort of try to deal with that issue. But again, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Just through you, Mr. Chair, just a quick one. Just around supply staff and sick leave, I know that's an ongoing challenge, a growing envelope of cost. Have we received any additional funds or direction from the province on how they might be supporting boards provincially on that? And just remind us sort of what we're budgeting for that. Is that the supply staff line in here that I'm seeing? Because it shows that it's actually down 462,000, so I'm just curious there.
So, great question. Thank you, through Mr. Chair. While Manager Donnelly looks it up, I'm just going to provide a summary answer. So there is no additional funding for sick leave or absence costs. As we went through the pandemic, as you can imagine, there was a lot of pressure on our attendance budget. And even as late as the beginning of this year, our sick leave budget was being projected to be over $1 million. As we're moving through the current school year, we're seeing that that's starting to stabilize a little bit better. So we're seeing improved results in our sick leave budget compared to what they were during COVID. So they're still not of the same level to what they were pre-COVID, but they are showing some improvements. With respect to your question regarding the ministry support for that, from a financial support, there doesn't seem to be a financial support. I would be hopeful that in the future we'll see some other mechanisms that will help us support that particular portion of the budget. And if we have a supply cost,
I don't have the total, but it is on that supply line, those two supply lines. Yeah, you have to add them together.
so you're happy with that figure? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation, and it's very clear to me that we're passing a balanced budget but dipping into reserves to do one-time things and totally within all the rules. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Coburn, seconder. Trustee Whitted. That the memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated May 17, 2023, entitled 2023-2024 Preliminary Budget Information and Proposal to Balance and Accompanying Budget Documentation be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. New business, there's none. Notice of motions, there's none. Confirmation of the action report. Thank you, ladies. Confirmation of the action report from May 9, 2023. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Phelan. Trustee Moore. That the action report covering the period of May 9, 2023 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Inquiries? None. Administrative announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick announcement that we did lose the video signal. That's the camera that would normally be shining on the chair. So that's why you're still seeing the presenter table at home, but rather than have a recess to do a reset, since we're at the end of the meeting, we'll just continue if that's the will of the board. And as we began the meeting in our prayer, I would like to offer the chair condolences on the loss of his mother. So on behalf of all of the members of senior admin and certainly the trustees that are with us today, we do offer our condolences. And finally, you'll see there is a box over there for anyone that participated in Denim Day that you're welcome to make a donation as we continue with our charitable work. That's the end of the announcements. Thank you.
And supplemental to that, I would like to thank the board presence at my mom's funeral this afternoon and the trustees that attended. It was nice to know that you support me and my family, and it was heartbreaking. Father, you were there as well. I got many emails, and there's a big pile of cards here, and it's heartwarming to know that everybody cares. So thank you very much. One more thing. We need to adjourn the meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Moore, seconded by Trustee Coburn. The regular board meeting of May 23rd, 2023 be adjourned at 8:14 p.m. All in favor?